All right, so you're live streaming and you want to invest in making the quality even better. Good place to spend some time is actually on your audio. Now, if you're not already getting your audio from your main mixing board, that is the place that you're going to want to go first. People can often be intimidated by soundboards because they have so many buttons and switches and dials and everything, but it actually is fairly straightforward to get really good quality sound out of this into your live stream. Now, most soundboards have multiple outputs, and the one that most of us are probably familiar with is the main out, and that is the out that's going to go to the speakers in your room or venue. It's the thing you're actually going to hear live in the space. Now, that's great for live in the space, but it may not be the best choice for your live stream mix, because there may be things in your room that you're using, a piano, an organ, or some acoustic instruments that aren't mic'd. They're loud enough in the space all on their own, and they don't need the extra help of the soundboard. In the room, that's fine, but what that means for your people at home and on the live stream is they can't hear it. So setting up a separate output just for your live stream is the ticket to really taking your audio to the next level, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. All right, this is my Alto Live 802, a pretty basic 8-channel soundboard. What I'm going to show you today will be applicable pretty much to almost any soundboard because they all work in pretty much the same way. Now, while this can be an intimidating field of knobs and things, it actually is actually a very simple grid that once you understand it, you can pretty much figure out what all of these different things do. This is not going to be a full tutorial on a soundboard, but we're going to look specifically about how do we create a dedicated live stream output. First thing to understand is the columns. Each column is a line in. This is one source of sound, whether that be from a microphone or an instrument or wherever it's from. You've got usually at the top, you have the actual physical input for the sound, either an XLR style if it's coming from a microphone, maybe it's a 1/4 inch if it's coming from an instrument, but this is the actual physical input for the channel that you're dealing with. Sometimes it's around the back, sometimes it's on the top. The first thing you'll then run in on the top kind of column of knobs is almost always one marked gain. The gain is basically sensitivity. It's how sensitive the mic is. How much sound do you want to gather from the mic? Sometimes you can gather too much sound. That's what causes feedback. If you have feedback in your system, oftentimes that's because of too much gain. Or you just capture too much ambient noise around you. So you don't always want this to be as high as it possibly can, but you do kind of want it turned up a bit. But this is how much sound comes into the system. Now, if we keep following all the way down, we typically have a mute button, which mutes the whole column. And then finally, the slider that we use to adjust the live sound, the sound in the room. These are the adjustments for the main out. All the adjustments for the main out are in a row here. That, though, is not the only output row. So if you come down about midway on this board, and along with those boards, you're going to start seeing some rows. In this case, these are the green rows marked aux, AUX. These are your auxiliary outputs. These are additional outputs designed to be used for something other than the main house sound, which is down here. And you can independently adjust the amount of sound that is being sent to these different auxiliary outputs. This soundboard, as you can see, has two, auxiliary 1 and auxiliary 2. Auxiliary 1 on most boards is typically reserved as a monitor mix. This is the mix that you may send up front for your vocalists who want to hear something slightly different than what the rest of the house is handling. And then the additional ones are typically for your use. It is very common to assign a live stream mix to auxiliary 2. So as you can see, we have these various inputs, and for each input, I can adjust the knob for how much sound is going out for this input into auxiliary 2 into the live stream mix, meaning I can independently adjust the different sound levels for the different channels for my live stream. This is really handy if, for say, you have like an acoustic piano or an organ or something like that that isn't traditionally mic'd. You can add a mic to it, turn it all the way down in the house mix, so it won't be heard inside your space at all, and then turn it up in the live stream mix. There you go. Or if you've got vocalists that you want to have a slightly different level inside versus out, or however you want to do it, you can independently adjust this auxiliary 2 send independent of the main house send so that you can keep things at a level you want them to be at. Now you can see over here we have auxiliary sends, and under aux 1 it says mon, because that is typically used again for a monitor, and then aux 2. So what you would do is you would hook a cable up from your aux 2 send, which is typically going to be either a 1/4 inch or an XLR style output, and feed that into whatever your live stream is. So you can feed it into your ATM Mini or your Sling Studio, or into the computer doing your live stream into an input. So you would basically wire this output, this auxiliary 2 output, also known as sends. Sometimes on soundboards they're known as outputs, sometimes they're labeled as sends, S-E-N-D-S. But either way, you would hook the output of this into the input onto your computer, and then you have an independently adjustable live stream mix, which will no doubt increase your quality that you get on your live stream, because you can set the levels independently, which is one of the biggest problems we have. Oftentimes, almost always, no, not always, most of the time, always. Most of the time, always. How do you like that one? That's a great phrase. Most of the time, always. The mute buttons will mute the whole stack. So you still need to unmute a channel, even if you want it to go out on your live stream mix. So if you have something that is not being heard or amplified in the space, again, like that acoustic piano or whatever, you're going to have that channel unmuted and just turned all the way down, so it doesn't show up in your mix. So that is a quick and dirty, how do you do a dedicated sound mix to your live stream. Look for your aux sends, find one that is currently unused. Some larger boards might have 3 or 4 different auxiliary sends. Find an auxiliary send that's not currently used and go to town. The nice thing is you can adjust this aux send and you're not going to mess anything up in the space. You're not going to mess up any of this stuff. You're not going to change anything in your live sound. So you really can't hurt anything by coming in here and experimenting and trying out how to use an auxiliary send. So there you go. All right, folks, I told you this one was pretty quick and easy. Setting up that auxiliary send is pretty straightforward. Many people I find are intimidated by these soundboards, and this is one of those places where it's really hard to do any harm. So go ahead and give it a try. And as far as hooking up your auxiliary send to your live stream gear, most live stream gear takes, that kind of headphone 1/8 inch. You just really need to order yourself the right adapter cable. A 1/4 inch to an 1/8 inch ought to just do you just fine. There will also tend to be somewhere on your soundboard kind of a master level for that auxiliary send. So the ones on the channels will set the kind of the relative level for that channel, and then there usually will be a final kind of volume control for the auxiliary send as a whole. So you want to identify that as well. If you're just not getting enough volume period across all the channels, look for that one and make sure that that's the way that you want it to be. General rule of thumb on soundboards is if you're not quite sure where to start at the 12 o'clock position when you're dealing with the little dials. Start at 12 o'clock and then adjust from there, whether it's a gain or a volume, whatever it is, and you should be good to go. All right, if you have any questions or comments about this one, please leave it in the comments. Please like and subscribe. That really helps me out. And if you have other topics you would like me to cover, don't forget to put those in the comments as well. I do read those, and it helps me know how to answer questions. This actually video itself came from a comment on one of my other videos. So please do that for me, and I greatly appreciate it. And until we see each other again, have a great day. Hey everybody, if you found that video helpful, please hit like and subscribe, and also check the video description for links to any products you've seen in today's videos. Doing that really helps support this channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment with any questions that you may have. A lot of the content I do is based directly on the questions and the feedback you give, so keep that coming and I will keep making them. Thank you.